Good morning, guys. It's Pastor Andy. Today is January the 16th, so we're going to be looking at Proverbs chapter number 16 together this morning. So we're looking at Proverbs chapter number 16. And as soon as you start into this chapter, there's some really powerful verses in here. Let's start looking right down in verse number 9. Proverbs 16:9 says, "We can make our plans, but the Lord determines our steps." That's kind of the theme in this chapter, is that we can make our plans, we can set our calendar, we can have a vision for the future, we can make big plans, but we can't forget while we are making our plans that the Lord determines our steps. He's the one who's really in control of all of it. I mean, we can set our stuff up and we can work towards a goal and all of that, but ultimately, what the Bible is teaching us here is that God is in control of everything. He's in control of every step that we take. He's in control of our calendar, the people that we meet. He knows in advance what's going to happen to us where we don't. So we can make plans, but God knows what's going to happen. God lays everything out. God's in control of everything. And it goes along with the next verse that I want to read to you out of Proverbs chapter 16. And that is verse number 25. "There's a path before each person that seems right, but it ends in death." So yes, we can make our plans, but we need to make sure that they're God's plans as well, because what looks right to us may not be right to Him. And we've talked about this verse in other chapters before and how it says very similar things. But we've got to be careful that when we are walking, when we are going through life, when we are doing life, that we keep God first. Because if we're trying to follow our own plan, well, it might look good to us, but it probably isn't God's plan at times. So we got to make sure we get Him involved first. And then it goes with verse 33, kind of ties this whole thing together. It says, "We may throw the dice, but the Lord determines how they fall." We may think we're in control of things. We may set our schedule. We may put a 5-year plan together, but ultimately, God's the one who determines how everything comes out. So while it's good to make plans, and I have 5-year goals, I have 10-year goals, I think those are important to have. I have to understand that if God has something different, I got to be okay with that. I got to roll with what God has for me. So we may throw the dice, or the old King James says we may cast lots. It's the same kind of an idea of throwing these dice around. But the Lord determines how they fall. He knows what's going to happen. It's His choice. And we have to understand that His way is always best. He knows best. He's got our best interest at heart. He cares about us. He loves us. And we've got to be okay with turning our plan, our calendar, our daytime, or whatever it is that you use, whether it's your Apple calendar or iCal or whatever. We got to be okay after we put all our stuff down to hand it up to God and say, okay, it's yours. If you want this to work, great. If you've got something else, great. I just want what you want. And that's an important thing for us to remember, because throughout the day, God can bring what I call divine appointments into our life. I every morning walk up to the gas station here behind the church and get me an iced coffee. It's $1.08 every day. So, but in doing that, I've been able to meet some people who work in there and some that are regulars in there. And last night at our Bible study, we're walking through the book of Luke together in our Wednesday night auditorium class. There's other classes going on as well, but in my class, a young man showed up that I have been asking to come to church for 4, 5, 6 months since I moved here to Kansas. So it's actually been since June. And last night he showed up for the very first time to church. I am going in there just to get my coffee, to get my morning fix, to get my caffeine. But I've got to be aware that there are people that I'm going to meet every day who need something. And God's going to bring them into my path if I'm ready for them. So God brought Paul into my life, working at the gas station, seeing him in the mornings. And then time after time of saying, hey man, why don't you come down and try church sometime? Why don't you come sometime? He showed up last night. That divine appointment of meeting him in the gas station was no doubt of God. There's been several others who've come down, Bill and some others from the gas station who've come down and visited church and have a lot of good questions. And I'm excited about what God is doing here at our church. I hope you're excited about your church and what the Lord's doing there. But even though we plan our day out, even though we plan our life out, God can bring those divine appointments to meet us. We've got to be ready for them. You know, I heard a preacher say one time, we should be kind to everybody because somebody's having a bad day. Those divine appointments may be just speaking a kind word to somebody. It may be sharing your faith with somebody. It may be just giving somebody a hug. I don't know. But be prepared. Keep your eyes open, because if your eyes are open and you are prepared, God will bring people into your path every day that need something from Him. And you have the opportunity, and I have the opportunity, to receive from God and to give to others. So keep your eyes out today, because we may throw the dice, but the Lord determines how they fall. I hope you'll read Proverbs 16 today for yourself and see what God has for you. Until tomorrow, have a great day. I'll see you then.